Welcome to Curious Joel, a show about curiosity taking us deeper into the topics of people's passion and interesting conversation. I have two guests today. Sorry, my name is Joel Zergo. Ha! And that's how you know it's a live opening every time. So I have two guests today, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves really quick.
I'm Zack Kurtz. I'm his brother-in-law.
I'm Nick Bueller. I'm just the best friend of both of them.
Yep. And today we're actually talking about wrestling. How would you describe your interest in wrestling, like in a couple words?
It's wonderful. One of the best sports there is.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. A huge passion.
All right. So let's start with the beginning. Like, what first got you guys interested in wrestling?
Well, for me, it was when I was about 4 or 5. I was starting into school and that, and I had a cousin that was wrestling. And always hearing about him going to practice and that made me want to start in. And I just went to the Pee Wee program and started from there, and it's been ever since.
Okay.
Yeah, my two brothers wrestled, and my mom was sick of me tearing apart our house when they were at practice, so she signed me up and fell in love with it.
Okay, so you guys like wrestled from a very, very young age.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was about 5, 6 when I started.
Okay, so, and then are you two wrestling at all today still?
Not really.
Not really.
I did a tournament last year. Took second.
All right. So walk me through like your wrestling career as it stands right now, as best as like again, quick, simple steps of like what that looked like. We can get into more a little bit later.
Starting at 5, just going to Pee Wee practices every, I think it was Tuesday and Thursdays, all the way up until 6th grade, going to various tournaments and that around. And then once 7th grade started, was modified program. And that's when wrestling started to increase and get more involved. Because that was everyday practices, tournaments on the weekend every now and then. And then once you got to 9th grade, varsity starts. And varsity is where it's like, all right, this is for the money. You got to go all out for it. Practice most of the time was 6 days a week. Tournament every weekend. Matches twice a week, most weeks.
Okay.
There was never a break back then. Always working.
Okay. So it takes like a lot of dedication to be doing this like through high school. Like you this is your full time, like quote unquote your full time job outside of school is just practicing. You know,
eating right, working out hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know that like dieting like correctly so that you're like in the correct weight class and like you got the right muscle. Like there's so much that goes into eating and like sleeping and like everything is all about like toning everything to, you know, just be ready at your peak. Yep. So what does a typical like cycle of dieting look like for like a season?
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to maintain weight, you just have to watch what you're putting in that. But if you're trying to cut weight, you could be going from what you normally eat to eating 3 scoops of peanut butter in a day. It can be pretty harsh and telling on the body, but it's all up to what you want to do, because being in a lower weight class, if you're a taller person, generally is easier. Whereas if you're a shorter person in a heavier weight class, it makes it a lot more challenging because the guys will have 3-foot reach on you or something.
So I was going to say, like, what is the height and weight, like, why does height versus weight matter? And you're talking about like reach.
Yes, it makes it so you have easier times to get in on your opponent to make openings. It'll make the difference between getting taken down and taking someone down.
Gotcha. So you're like, you have like specific weight targets for your height, so that you're trying to like get into those specific.
You and your
ranges.
coach at the beginning of the season, you go through a process. I can't remember what it's called. Certification. Thank you. And you have to make sure you're fully hydrated. And they do what is called a pinch test. They pinch a square on your shoulder, on your stomach,
behind your bicep,
to make sure you're fully hydrated. You have to pee in a cup as well.
Okay.
And it's to say how much body fat you have so you can go down to a certain weight class.
Gotcha.
So they will certify you saying you can't go past 145. It is unhealthy for you to go lower than that weight.
Gotcha.
And then you and your coach will work out what weight you want to wrestle at. He'll give his input because he's been there for hopefully 10, 15 years or more. But.
Right.
But like, if you try dropping below that weight class, you're not allowed to wrestle at all. They make you regain the weight.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Back up to where you're certed at, or you can't wrestle at all.
So you're like, is the goal to be like at the top of your weight class, or like, what are you aiming for?
It depends on where you feel best at.
Okay.
Like me, I always wrestled not 195 to the big boys, the heavyweights. So when I was wrestling the heavyweights, I always liked to be a little lighter than them because I was a little faster on my feet. When I was at 195, I wanted to be closer to 195 because you just had a little bit of extra weight on you, to be able to just to throw them around a little bit more, kind of help you out with the balance and all that.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I've heard various people talk about it briefly here and there, about like what you're going for. So that's why I'm just like trying to like hone in for the people that maybe never heard of wrestling or whatever, or barely heard of it, like finding out what that aim is. Because like for me, I would think that being at the top of your weight class means that you have an advantage, but you're saying that if you're at the heavier weight, if you're towards the bottom, you have a little advantage if you're faster and a little bit lighter.
Yeah, it really depends on how fast you can be on your feet. When you wrestle, when I used to wrestle heavyweight, I used to love it because I was fast, and all of them were like barely making 285, and I was at like 215, 220, so I could shoot in real quick and get away, and I was fast.
Gotcha.
But that's just what I used to do. I used to just wear them out, get them tired.
So you're kind of trying to balance the speed versus strength.
Exactly.
Kind of and that's per season. You're trying to figure out what do I feel best this season?
Exactly.
This year, what am I going for?
Yep.
So me and Zack used to do a lot. We used to start doing like a pre-cut before the season started, just to see how our body would start feeling before season started. So we'd be like, all right, like I always wanted to wrestle 195 towards the end of the season because I always felt more comfortable there. And it was always like, do I still feel comfortable there? Am I not?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to just stay up this year? Do I want to stay back down? I know Zack used to feel the most comfortable at 45.
Yeah. But my senior year, I was like, I do not want to cut heavy. I'm going to stay right at the 160.
So cut heavy, what does that mean?
Intensely working out, after practice, I would be running extra stairs, going for lifting weights, all sorts of things just to try and get even more weight loss per day. I could get down to 145.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're trying to that would be like a really harsh weight loss regimen. Yep, that's the right word.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, regime? Nope, that's not it. Regimen. Okay, so you were trying to figure out how you felt, how comfortable you felt with that extreme weight loss in a short period of time, versus maintaining a certain weight, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So I guess let's go back a little ways to first lessons that you can remember. What was one of the first couple lessons you learned in wrestling?
The first one I can remember is hand fighting. When you're on your feet, squared up to your opponent, it's whoever can get the inside control on the hands. So there would be times where we would practice on just grabbing the wrists, controlling the other guy, moving them around with their wrists and that. Okay. And you had to learn how to, if somebody has your wrists, how to get them off.
Gotcha.
And
it looks like that memory is still there because you're going through the hand motion right now. Because they can't see that, but you weren't just talking. You were going through something that looks like it could get someone's hands off pretty quickly.
It's still there,
yeah. So hand fighting. Nick, what about you?
Mine was a double leg takedown. That's sweet. You go in between legs, you grab both of them, you just run them pretty much across the mat, and slam them as hard as you can. That was my favorite.
Gotcha. And then if you were to be teaching someone today, for each of you, would that be the same thing that you'd start them off with, or would you try and teach them something else?
It depends on their skill level. Because
Yeah.
if you're working with kids, probably modified age, you would hope that they would have the basics of how to do a simple takedown, how to do simple hand fighting and that.
Okay.
You might have to show them a special technique that they didn't learn yet, because there are, from coach to coach, some coaches have things that other coaches haven't ever thought of.
Sure.
So
that's kind of the point of coaching is
Yep.
is the, hey, I've been in the industry for so long, I've learned some things, I've figured out some new tricks, or just forgotten tricks or whatever. So, okay.
But for peewees who have never wrestled before, yeah, you'd want to start them off with something simple, hand fighting, then takedown, just keep progressing day by day.
Okay. And then just for my clarification, do you guys coach now?
I do, yeah.
You coach. Okay. I've heard you both talk about
Yep.
coaching, but I wasn't sure if you both coach or not.
Coached up until last season. This season was up in the air. We had some behind the scene things with the head coach.
Okay.
So the program I was helping is no longer around,
So
unfortunately.
you both have coached?
Yes.
Okay.
We coached for the same program for
Gotcha. Okay.
2 seasons.
That's what I
Yeah, 2
thought.
years.
I just wanted to clarify before I start asking coaching questions. And like, oh, I've never coached. Like, oh, okay. I just misunderstood things. Anyway, I'm going to go rewrite my questions now. Okay. So you both have not just taken this through like high school. You guys, this is like a way of life for you guys, right?
Yeah.
So like this has changed your life fundamentally, from that 4 to 6 years of age on to adulthood. You guys have other things you do, but like wrestling is a part ingrained in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
The mentality, the never wanting to quit, never wanting to lose, it stays with you forever.
Okay. What would be the biggest like lifestyle change that you can attribute directly to wrestling, like outside of obviously like coaching and stuff like that, but like that's affected the rest of your life?
It definitely shows you that hard work is needed to succeed in life. You can't go by just goofing off in practice and then expect to win.
Yeah.
You have to put your nose to the grindstone, in the mat, outside of the mat, with whatever you're doing to get the most success you can get.
Right.
And it shows you that everything is within your control. When you step out on that mat, it's just you and that other guy.
Right.
So it's up to you to determine whether you're going to win or lose.
Yeah.
And that translates over to life with, again, everything you do. Because
Right.
if you just give up, you're just going to give up in life. So
Right. And wrestling is not a sport that you can just, if you buy the better equipment, you win.
yeah,
You know, like you
it
can, like
doesn't
I
matter.
got these new shoes, and it's like, well, that gives me a little bit of a better grip or whatever. But like, if you don't have the skills to back it up at all, like it comes down to skill, and like whoever has the better shoes isn't going to matter really in the end.
No.
Yep.
So I can appreciate that about that sport. Like it definitely gives you that. You can buy whatever equipment you want. You can spend the money on whatever you want to. But if you're not putting the work, you're not
getting anywhere.
You're not getting it. What about for you? Like, what's a fundamental?
About the same as Zack, just the work you put in will give you what you deserve,
Mm-hmm.
Coach Green used to always tell us it was like cashing a paycheck, You didn't work too hard all week, you're going to get beat on all weekend. You put the work in, you're going to get a nice paycheck at the end of the weekend. So it really just depended on what you did and what you wanted.
Yeah. I'm blanking on the law of physics that's about that.
I was very stubborn, though, in the beginning of my career. As Zack, I was very stubborn. I had learned that lesson the hard way quite a bit.
Gotcha. Is that like in terms of just getting like beat down?
Oh, yeah.
In wrestling, just
as him, it was probably first season and a half, just every tournament, 0-5, 0-2, just getting beat on.
Yep.
Just because I was too stubborn to put the work in.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having a conversation with a coworker last night, talking about cheating and like making like cheat sheets for tests, and he was like, "Yeah, I always struggled with like I was like, I don't want to do the work in like studying, so I'd make throughout high school, and like I'd work on like really like narrowing them down, making them really as sleek as possible, and like making sure I had all the information. By the time I had finished that cheat sheet, I realized I had studied the entire thing. And I'm like, I don't need the cheat sheet anymore. So then he'd sell it and stuff like that. But but I'm like, there's some people that like they're so stubborn on like just trying to put in the work that sometimes like if you put more work into trying to not work than you if you're just done the work in the first place. But yeah, okay. So just that work directly has a correlation to the outcome of what you get.
Exactly.
Yep. Gotcha. I mean, that's a really solid life lesson that I know that there's a lot of people in the world that could use that specific lesson of like, well, I almost tried once. Why am I not a millionaire? It's like, well,
because you didn't finish it.
Did you hear the entire sentence you just said?
Almost
tried once. Not a millionaire. Yep. Yeah. Okay. I mean, like I said, I always find it interesting what things people learn from their specific passion or interest that like bleeds into the rest of their life, because like it's inevitable. You whenever you put on certain glasses or see the world through a certain lens, you always have a certain thing that you're like, well, because of this, I can see this thing that other people don't see as easily. So it's always interesting to find out what that is. When you're in high school, I know you said like there's daily practice and stuff like that. How many hours a day did you dedicate to wrestling?
I used to go for morning workouts, so it's about 2 hours for that. And our actual practice is what, 2.5 hours?
2 hours.
Yeah, so it's about 4 to 6 hours a day, depending on what I need to do.
Okay, and then like, but you also like talked about like dieting and stuff like that.
Some days it would be a full 24 hours because you have to be conscious of what you're eating, what you're taking in, how much water you're drinking. Because if you go over by 0.10,
right,
you can't wrestle that day.
Yeah, it's
in the
very
match.
very weight specific. So
yeah.
So how much time each day were you like going like, I'm gonna just grab actually no, I'm not gonna just grab anything at all whatsoever. In fact, I have to go actually take care, like do something to get rid of some of that stuff that I already grabbed.
Yep.
Like how much time do you think you spent on just like course corrections throughout the day of just eating like intake and
at least
majority
all day.
of the day.
At least all day.
Yeah, at least 16 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm a snacky guy, so I'm always like, oh, this looks like a good snack. Then I'm like, oh wait, I got 4 more pounds to lose. Yep, this ain't happening today.
Yep.
So another question, like how often do you guys like step on a scale? Like in high school, like
every day.
Every day.
Before and after practice, sometimes in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's like multiple times a day for you, Nick?
Yep.
100%.
Okay, because I'm like, I if someone asked me how much I weigh right now, I'd have to guess a round number based off of like 3 weeks ago or something like that. But you're talking about like you knew that like you were over by whatever or you were under by whatever, and like
it's crazy. You can ask most wrestlers; they can just like kind of look at their stomach and just give you like a guesstimate. Be like, "Oh, I'm a little bloated today. I'm probably about 4 over," and like, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Would you just curious? Does that apply to other people? Like, can you like look at somebody else and be
100%.
like, 477.5?
I can look at a guy and be like, he's probably wrestling 152.
Up to about 250 pounds-ish is normally it. Once it gets past that, it's like any number. But you can look at somebody, tall, skinny guy, and be like, okay, he's about 160. You can look at a smaller, skinny guy and be like, okay, he's...
I want each of you to give your guess on me right now. Because I'm curious. Because I have a rough estimate of
245.
I'm saying about 235.
Last time I weighed myself, I was 252. So I'm like I said, that was like 3 weeks ago, and I don't know if I've gained or lost weight since then. And now I'm gonna go home and weigh myself. But I'm curious to see like how accurate that is. I will have to make an audio note in this later of like, oh, and I was this weight that day. So audience, you'll find out how accurate they are before they do, probably. But I just, because like I know that there's certain skills that I've learned with podcasting that like I in my last episode I had the sniffles really bad, and I have this annoying repeating thing of I would go and like I could, without any headphones, nothing, I could look at the screen and the wavelengths of that and go, that's my sniffle, like, and just I can edit that out, and I knew exactly how long like the breaths were, so that I don't have them that weird like like
okay.
I can spot my ums a mile away. I can spot certain phrases that people say. Like if I've edited for more than like an hour, I can recognize their voice versus my voice. Sometimes there's a few people that have very similar like wavelengths. Like, so it's always interesting to see what skills are like random. Like, oh yeah, I just know. It's like you just know how much people wait. It's like it's like, oh okay.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah,
Hey,
pretty rough estimate.
Have you ever like tried one of those like guess my weight type deals and see if you can get that?
I never have.
Yeah, I haven't done it. I've watched like people in my friend group go over and do it, and the guy gives off a completely wrong guess, and I'm like, geez, you don't have a clue, do you, buddy?
Because like I've seen them at like fairs and stuff like that where people like guess my weight, win whatever.
Yep.
I'm like, if I had that skill, I feel like I'd be like, and you are this, and just watch them like, oh. No, I'm 100 pounds more than that.
Yeah.
And just to see if they try to get out of that or something.
Yep.
But I would test that skill against something, but that's me. All right. So on a daily basis, passively, you're spending most of your waking day just like, okay, where am I at?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much do I need to gain or lose today? And then dedicated, like, specific time you're spending. You said 4-ish hours, like, because you said 2 by yourself, and then
probably
2
about
practice.
4 hours actively working out and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the day is just monitoring what you eat, what
like
you
the
drink,
passive,
all
just
that.
like course corrections, but like you're spending about 4 hours a day, 2 hours just doing like workout, and then 2 hours at practice.
Yep.
Daily, and that's all for a tournament that lasts about how long for the weekend?
Each match is 6 minutes, so if you're making it to the finals, you probably have 6 matches. Yeah. So that'd be about 36 minutes total, unless you're pinning your guy quicker than that.
Sure.
I mean, or going to overtime.
Yeah, or you can go to overtime, which is an extra minute, or keeps going until somebody wins.
That's a lot of time for a very short period of time. But I mean...
But that 2 minutes round is the most energy exerting thing you will ever experience in your life.
Oh yeah.
I mean, sure, you're fighting. You're fighting. Like, that's one of the most exhausting things. I mean, it's not swimming for your life. It's you're fighting for your life. There's a reason fighting is used that way. It's exhausting, and it's not just your arms. Like, it's a full body. Everything's going into like pinning this person and all of their limbs that can do all their things.
Yep.
Do you have any like memorable matches that you like recount to yourself or like bring up in your memory or talk about a lot?
There's a couple. I mean, I have a memorable opponent that whenever I saw him, I knew I was going to destroy this kid.
Oh.
Is it Mohawk?
Rainbow Mohawk.
Yeah, Rainbow Mohawk.
Every time I saw it in a tournament, in the match we had against just their school, every time I saw this Mohawk, I was like, all right, give me him. I want to make this quick. Let's see how fast I can beat him today.
What was it, APW, right?
I think so.
Sorry, what?
APW is the name of the school.
Okay, sorry. It's like, I don't know what this is. Okay. Gotcha. So you had a memorable opponent.
Yep.
Any memorable, like, victories or...
I think the best one was probably... I think it was junior year. We were at the home Port Byron tournament.
Mm-hmm.
No, not the tournament. It was just a regular match. But it was if we won that, we won the classes. And it came down to me and I think it was Gavin.
Yep.
Gavin went out and lost. by 3 points. So we were down 3 points. So I either had to tech fall this kid, which is scoring 15 points without them scoring a point.
Okay.
Or I had to pin them.
Okay.
It was second period. I almost got pinned. Looked at coach, could hear everybody in the crowd, and I just put every effort into getting my shoulder up.
Okay.
That next period, right before the whistle blows, I could hear the entire gym just screaming, chanting, and everything just kind of went right into focus. And I hit one of the meanest double leg takedowns I've ever hit in my life. Went straight to a half Nelson and pinned the guy about 15 seconds after that whistle blew for the third period to win us the, was that 5th league title in a row?
5th or 6th, something like that.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. That's the type of story I'm talking about. That's cool. Yeah. I do know that sensation of like that second wind of like, okay, no wait, I got it. I see it all. I got this is one of my favorite moments of like, wait, like perfect clarity of just like, I know how to do this. I got this. You're done.
Yep. It was just wild.
Yeah. What about for you?
I got 2 of them.
Right.
There was one wrestled Phoenix. I think it was a junior year. I was going in the third. I was losing 11-1. I was just getting beat on. And it was blood time right at the end of the second.
Blood time?
Yeah, it's when you get a bloody nose, you're bleeding or something. You gotta clean it up.
Gotcha.
And I go over to coach, and he yelled at me. He's like, dude, you just beat this kid last week in like 20 seconds. Like, what are you doing? And I stood there and I just looked at him like, yeah, you're right. What am I doing? And I went out there, and the kid chose bottom. I was on top. And I got him in a cradle, and I pinned him about 40 seconds into it. And the other guy's coach was so pissed. You remember Gene Mills with a little squeaky, high-pitched voice he had? Gene Mills is a national champ 3-time, I think. And he's an Olympian.
Okay.
Super great wrestler. And he's the reason that the tech fall even exists. Because he used to go out there and beat people like 101-0.
Ooh.
So they made it so the 15-point rule was a thing.
Yeah.
So.
Like a mercy rule.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, gotcha.
And just to see him, like, the look on his face of, like, yeah, we're going to win this match. So what just happened was absolutely priceless. And then the second one was, Zack actually just reminded me, it was, we're wrestling Canastota, and we were tied going into the third. It was 1-1, and this dude was huge. Like, just probably one of the strongest people I've ever wrestled in my life.
Okay.
And I was going in for a bear hug. And I was trying to trip him. And the defense to that is to get all your weight down and get your hips back. And the way to do the move is you want to suck the guy as close as you can and trip him in the middle. Well, we collided heads, and we hit heads so hard that A, it echoed the gym. And then B, he went from, like, he was super toned and everything, like he had veins all popping out, to completely like that to just completely limp. And I knocked him clean out.
Oh my god.
And I let him down to the mat very gently. And I remember coach yelling at me to pin him. And I'm like, well, there's something wrong. Like, he's definitely out cold because I heard him snoring. So I got up off him. So the referee was like, 2, takedown, red. And then he was like, 1, escape green. Like, confused like that, just let him up. And my coach was like, what are you doing? Get back on top of him. And I went, he's out cold. He's sleeping. And the ref was like, injury time. And I'm like, just standing over on the side, and he's gushing blood. I got a little blood on the top of my forehead. We hit, and I won because, obviously sleeping.
Yeah.
And
not getting back into the match after that.
I actually met the kid again like 5 years later, 6 years later. We ended up working together.
Oh.
Owens, Illinois, here in Auburn. And I got talking to him. He was like, yeah, man, I had a massive concussion after that. He was like, I couldn't play any sports for like 8 months.
Oh.
He was like, it was awful. He was like, it was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm like I feel bad. But it's rough. One of my favorite stories ever.
I mean, accidentally headbutting someone to sleep.
Yeah.
Is like, I know plenty of people that like they've had fantasies of being able to do that. I'm just like, bam, just bashing someone's head and like, yep, and they're down and I'm fine.
Yeah, I just walked off and everyone's like, "You okay?" I had to go do concussion protocols and everything, and everyone's just staring at me like.
And you didn't have a concussion?
Nothing. I didn't have a headache. I had nothing. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, your head hurt?" And I'm like, "No." I had a cut above my eyebrow for a couple weeks.
Sure,
From that.
No, nothing. No sort of like head anything from.
No.
Wow.
Probably later on down the road, I probably have something wrong with me, but not right now.
That's really fun though. Like, just, oops, I knocked him out.
Yeah, oops, my bad.
That's great. Man, I can't imagine being the coach and be like, "What are you doing? Don't just let him go."
Yeah, he was so mad. He was like, "Why are you letting him go? Get back!" I'm like, "He's out cold, coach."
I'm gonna give him a binky and a blanket, and he's gonna roll over. I don't think I need to do anything to him.
And we get off the mat, and he's like, "You should have stayed on top, pinned him." And I'm like, "Coach, it's the same amount of points either way." I'm like,
right.
it's still 6 points. I'm like, I won.
Get the better 6 points though.
He's like, it looks better on your record. And I'm like, "Coach, I'm not really worried about that right now." I knocked him
out with my forehead.
I'm like, I'm kind of worried about him breathing. I'm like, that's what I'm more worried about right now.
It's like, I was trying not to kill a guy. Sorry, I wasn't super focused on the technical way to do this. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm glad you told that story. All right. So, I guess transitioning from playing the sport. So, you get out of high school. Did either of you play, do any wrestling, competitive wrestling after high school, or?
I did a couple tournaments just for fun.
Okay.
Other than that, nothing. No college or nothing.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So what did that transition from high school, doing this every year, you're working on a diet, you're working on weight, you're doing all that, to, okay, I don't have tournaments every weekend. What did that transition look like?
It was a little difficult. Especially because it's like, oh, I can eat whatever I want. So you would notice yourself getting rather big.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, all right, I got to stop eating so much. So it was less of a, mental, or more of a mental thing, I guess. Because it's like, oh, I don't have to be doing this every day. I don't have to get on a scale every single day anymore.
Right.
But part of you is also like, maybe I should still do that.
Right. You kind of built this very nice thing where you can control your weight at will, almost. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, well, why? And you're like, well, actually, because you're patting that little belly, going, well. Okay. So there's that mental challenge of do I just give up on everything, or am I putting this work even though I don't have that end goal of winning that match this tournament?
The best thing though was transferring it into other sports.
Okay.
Because I went to college to try and play soccer. Okay. And then the school I went to had a lacrosse team, and they were like, "Hey, we need guys," and I was like, "Oh, I could do that to try and stay in shape." Mm-hmm. It's easier to be held accountable with a team than it is to try and force yourself to work out by yourself.
Sure.
So, going there, going to practices and that, having that winning mentality translating into another sport helped grow the locker room and that. And then all the fundamental way you stand, react, move your feet and that into the sport of lacrosse translated very easily and well. Mm-hmm. So, me and the other guys that started never having played lacrosse before, going into a college level was like, holy crap, he can actually do some things.
Yeah.
But just translating it, keeping that winning mentality into another sport really helps, keeps you focused.
Yeah. Instead of going from I need to win every weekend to, well, I've got TV.
Yep.
I won this TV show. Woo!
Yep.
Giving that same focus and a dynamic to life with that extreme regiment to not having to do anything, but now you have another sport to focus on. And I will say I have noticed that throughout life, like people that have trained their body in one way, usually that translates. And usually, from what I understand of other people that have played different like college level sports, like if you did karate as a kid and you get into any sport, like they're like, oh wow, you're pretty good at this. Like, well, I know more about my body than the average Joe does.
Yep.
And so I feel like if you did something like wrestling, you're going into anything else that one of the primary things you're trying to train is, okay, get used to using this part of your body more than most people do. Going, well, I actually do already know kind of how to do that is a very helpful like starting point of like, I did this other thing that required me to be very specific, be able to use this part of my body specifically is a really nice jump start that can rocket you to a higher tier than anybody else starting in that thing brand new could be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about for you, Nick?
I transferred mine more after I graduated, about a year after. I gained a ton of weight because, TV was nice. And then I decided to join the military after that. So I kind of used that mentality again because I had to lose a bunch of weight to join the military. So I used that mentality of wrestling and cutting and all that to lose the weight to join. And I used that winning mentality to get me through boot camp, to get me through all my training schools, to complete my contract and all that. So I kind of honed mine in a different perspective, like different way than Zack did.
Yeah, but again, that's still like that same training, that same mentality is still a useful transferable skill. That like, military. That's something that is like it's about the goals. It's about the end result. It's about like getting from point A to point B, and like that like wrestling, I feel like helped translate a lot with that.
Oh
yeah. And then from your careers as far as sports and military, then transitioning into like coaching, what did that look like?
Oh God, sometimes I want to make them all my little recruits and want you to listen to me, but the type of kid now isn't the same from back when me and Zack were training and everything.
Right.
You talk back way too much.
Yeah.
But honestly, I kind of I keep my practices kind of stricter, probably a lot more stricter than most coaches do. Just for that, like, Zack knows I get distracted easily.
Mm-hmm.
I can go off on a rant and completely forget what we're supposed to be doing. And so I kind of keep it more strict for myself to be like, I need to get to this, and this today, and I only got 2 hours to do it.
Right.
So I keep it more towards like, kind of towards the military side of it. To like,
I was gonna say, like, it almost sounds like the your military experience kind of plays into how you coach. Yeah. Which, it kind of like folds back onto the wrestling background, fold into the military, and then you have, exactly. Coach Nick here that has a little bit more stricter practices and stuff like that.
Exactly. Like when we're in the room and it's time to work, I'm strict. But like when we're just kind of hanging out between matches and at tournaments and stuff, I'm pretty relaxed with them.
Gotcha.
They all drive me nuts.
What age did you coach primarily?
Oh God.
Or like the whole.
I coach everything pretty much.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I help out with so I coach for North Rose, so they got a Pee-wee program. It's called Mat Power. I go there as much as I can. My little boy wrestles in it.
Okay.
So I coach there, and then Modify is where I'm the head coach at. So that's my primary spot I coach, and that's what, like 13 to 14-year-olds, 12-year-olds, somewhere around there. And then right now, because Modify hasn't started yet, I'm helping out the varsity team.
Okay.
And so I work out with them a lot. And
so you have multiple outlets that like span different age ranges, so that you just kind of like are staying busy.
I'm always from November 1st all the way to the end of March. I'm too busy.
Gotcha. And that's not even like your like day job, right?
No.
That's
just, a lot of it's volunteer. Like I don't get paid technically until Modified starts. I get paid throughout Modified, and once Modified's over, I don't get paid.
Okay, so you do this just for the love of it.
Oh, yeah, just the love of the sport.
It's not a paycheck.
No. It's
literally, I'm doing this because I love wrestling this much that I want to make sure others have the same experience.
Exactly.
That shows dedication, that it's not just like a convenient thing that like, well, those that can't play teach,
Exactly.
Gotcha. Zack, what about you?
Me, I was coaching with Clyde Savannah's Pee-wee program, which was anywhere from 4 to 6th grade, because 7th grade they started modified there.
Yeah.
The coaching is definitely different. Being on the opposite side and seeing things that like, oh, I remember Coach yelling at me for this. That makes sense now. Because you're watching these kids do what you used to do
and going,
and
why
not
are you
figuring
so
it out.
stupid?
And then you're like, oh, that's why he would used to say that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why he would tell us this thing. Oh, that's why he made us run all the time because we wouldn't shut up.
Oh, yeah. There's some practices I could barely get through anything because they're just running stairs the whole time.
Gotcha.
It's like, you just gotta be quiet for like 5 minutes. Someone explain something.
You're kind of getting that like when parents wish like you're gonna have a kid just like you, and now you're sitting going like I'm coaching kids just like me.
I got 23 of them now.
It's like why was I so? Why did I do this? What was going through my brain back then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exact same stuff.
Have you found that you've learned a lot about wrestling by trying to teach somebody else?
Oh yeah, I learned little technique things that I never even thought of back when I was younger. Yeah. That I'm like teaching the next generation it. And hopefully they can learn new stuff off of it to teach the generation after that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something my mom taught me is that if you ever want to learn a subject fully or as close as you can get to fully, because always new things, but like if you start teaching somebody, if you start to teach a subject, you're going to learn way more about that subject than you would learn if you're just trying to teach yourself. Exactly. Or if you're learning yourself. Like when you're trying to teach, you have to learn so much beyond what you can teach just so you can understand it enough to explain it to the next person. It's like, that used to be one of her tests of how well I had learned a subject or how well I had learned something is if I can teach it to somebody else. If I can teach it to somebody else, I definitely know the material.
Exactly.
And so like I love learning, like hearing what other people's experience with teaching something that they learned and going, oh my gosh, it's so much more to teach than it is to just do. But yeah. So any fun like teaching moments that you've had?
God, there's so many. There are so many because every kid is different and they'll all do different things and you'll just most of the time just laugh at it because it's like you know how it's supposed to look and then they're trying their best and it's just that one gear is just not clicking yet. And it needs a little more oil on it. It's gonna go, but it's like no lower center of gravity. Like what are you doing? Oh, this is one kid, love him to death. His name's Tucker. You remember Tucker? Tucker. He's so uncoordinated that he's coordinated. And I'm trying to teach him simple stuff, and I'm like, dude, move this way. And you just move the opposite. I'm like, do this. You do the opposite. And I'm like, dude. What are you thinking, man? And then I just think to myself, it's Coach Green yelling at me back when I was younger. So I do the same thing. And I'm like, yeah. Definitely understand what I used to do wrong now. Yeah. Yeah, I will say that there is a level of frustration when you're trying to teach somebody something that you just keep these flashbacks of like, oh yeah, no wonder they were so frustrated. It's like I get it now. Like I will say for me, that has been one of the things that has eased off like some of the frustration. I'm like, okay, you know what? I can't be too mad because I know exactly what's going through their head. I've been there. I've done that. And you know what? I have to laugh a little bit at okay, all right, whatever. I think the most memorable coaching thing was one of the kids named Owen. Okay. We were going over the half Nelson in practice and that. And the way you finish a half Nelson is you want to be chest on their chest, and then you want to lift your head and look up at the crowd. You want to be able to, because that puts the most amount of pressure on their shoulders, which would force them to the mat. Mm-hmm. So we taught that in practice. We go into the match, and he's going and he's trying his half Nelson, but he's keeping his head right down on the mat. So then the first period ended, so I had him come over. I'm like, all right, buddy, you just got to pick your head up. Chest to chest, pick your head up. Goes out there, and he puts the half in. He picks his head up, and he's just got the biggest grin on his face. Just, oh, yay! And it was just so funny because he came off the mat and he's like, was my head up high enough? Did I do it? Did I do it? And I'm like, you got the pin, buddy. Great job.
It's like a movie ending moment right there.
Yep.
Like, you kept your chin out, buddy. That's amazing. But those have to be like really rewarding moments when you're like, they did it! They got it! They finally got it!
I never understood why coaches have some big smiles on his face after a match, and I get it now.
You're like, oh my gosh, the satisfaction of being able to like, I did that. Like,
yeah, I taught him that.
I taught him that. He like, I helped him get to where he is and where he's able to do that thing, and like, you get a lot of satisfaction of that moment of like, you got it, you did the thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. As a coach, what is like one or two skills that you were surprised that you needed as a coach that you would not have thought until you got to coaching? That you're like, oh my gosh,
typing skills.
Typing.
So much paperwork. Oh my god. So Coach Green was blind. Like he was legitimately blind. Like he got a horrible work accident, you know. So he was, and like I don't know how he did all the paperwork. To be honest with you, because I'm like I can barely do it. I got 2 working eyes, and I'm like this is so much. Because after every match, you got to submit it to the there's this wrestling page it's called CNY Wrestling. Mm-hmm. You got to submit every single win to that, so they can keep track of it for the state. Everyone in the state can look at it and all that, and you got it for every single person, every single match. And it's like this is so time consuming. Yeah. He made it look so easy. Like, what's he doing that I'm not? Like, that was one of them. And patience.
Yeah.
Patience.
Patience, I feel, is a skill that everyone just doesn't think anyone needs until they have to actually use it. Like, oh, man, should have been working on this a long time ago. Yeah. What about for you, Zach?
I would say it'd be communication. Because you have to talk to these kids in different ways than you're used to talking to normal people.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily babying them, but you're talking to them in a lesser degree than you would a normal adult trying to teach them something. You're
catering your speech pattern.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's something that I work on with this podcast because like I talk with a lot of people that are professionals in industries and they're using these abbreviations and words and I'm like, yep. My audience that is trying to learn this thing for the first time has no clue what it is, and so like I can sometimes talk at that same level depending on the subject, but I'm like I have to like no, this isn't for me. This is for someone that might not have any idea what this is. And I'm like, sorry, what does that mean? It's like, you don't know what that... No, I know what that means. I need you to explain in your words so that they know what it means. Because, you know, you're teaching these kids for the first time and you're trying to help them learn and using these big words or these concepts that are like, what? They're like, you said, like, deer in the headlights. It was like, oh yeah, no, okay, let me dial that to your level, your level of speech, so that you understand what's going on, and that can be really hard to tone down your verbiage to a spot that they can intake that, you know,
comprehend it, and that it's because one of the things our coach would always used to say is pencil to the mat, and that means keep your hips square when you're trying to pin someone.
Oh,
yep.
Would not have guessed that.
We had coaching 2 or 3 girls on our team, so we can't say pencil to the mat. So we're trying like square your hips. We're trying to just make it a little more fluid, more accommodating for everyone.
Right.
But back in the day, you used to be able to say stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, language is, I find language quite fascinating, and like how things change, and how like that's something why I always like to learn like where phrases come from, because like sometimes I'm like, that's horrible, why are we using this phrase?
Yep.
And other times like, well, but no one knows what that is anymore, or like, you know, the different phrases that I'm like I've stopped using because I'm like, there's other phrases that are more relevant or better tailored to what we have today or things that are going on today. You know, you don't slam your phone down to hang up anymore. If you slam your phone down to hang up, you don't have a phone anymore.
Oh god, I miss doing that.
I mean, yes, but like there's certain things that we just are so ingrained in our speech that we're like, why are we saying this? I don't remember. It's like, you know, when you're teaching somebody for the first time and you're like, and they have to ask that question of like, what? Like, oh, here's how how I'm gonna say it from now on. Okay, so like communication, yeah, it's definitely a skill, and like you can definitely go under the radar. But yeah, all right, and then
What would Coach say to Catherine?
Same thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
100%.
just pencil to the map?
Yep.
Well,
She got it.
She's smart enough. She wouldn't get it.
I mean, she also, Coach Green was teaching her since she was 4 too. So I mean,
yeah,
yeah, she kind of just knew it.
yeah, I mean if you've been taught long enough, like you just know.
I wasn't sure.
I'm glad you put that in there.
Sorry. Side note: Catherine now has a little baby girl.
Yep.
And baby's already been to the mat, to the wrestling mat. I'm like, ah. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So, if someone walk up to you and they wanted to start with wrestling, like what would be the top 3 skills starting in wrestling that you tell them, like top 3 skills to get into it at any given age?
Footwork, hand-eye coordination, and mentality.
Okay. And so I'm assuming that mentality is like that like eye on the prize, or is there
It's
another?
more of a mentality of you have to be able and willing to learn when you're
Learning
starting
mentality.
off.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You can't have that I'm going to win every match until you've learned all the fundamentals, all the basics, and
Right.
you know majority of the moves.
Right.
Because up until that point, you're going to be putting moves when you're just starting out that you don't even have a clue what the heck this kid's doing to you, and you're just like, I got pinned. What happened, coach? What was that?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have the ability to be able to be like, all right, coach, that kid just beat my freaking A with this.
Mm-hmm.
How do I stop that?
Right. Being able to like self-analyze to learn and like, okay, I know something happened. I don't have the ability to see it. Who does? And how do I get better at that thing?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Nick, what about you? Would you agree, disagree?
I agree with everything you said, but I'd probably say definitely the mentality of like, it's gonna suck. Like your first year or two.
So first skill, know it's gonna suck.
The key phrase you hear all the time is embrace the suck, embrace the grind.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be good overnight.
Right.
There's Olympians now that still getting beat on like they just started wrestling.
Yeah.
It's just you just take the match. You take it as it goes. You just know your first 2 years are gonna be rough. You're gonna get some wins. You get a lot of losses, but you get them out of the way. You can enjoy it in the future. All the wins.
It's all part of the process. It's
Exactly.
like, yes, you didn't win and that was rough, but that's part of the journey to being a success. Is that those losses, those humiliating losses, maybe there's like, but I tried.
Because there was this one kid, I can't remember his name, but we used to go to high school with him, and he was great for modified. He was a stud for modified, didn't lose a single match, super great, varsity hit, first match of the season, got pounded on by a senior, or a freshman, got beat on, quit wrestling after that. Never stepped on the mat again. Didn't know how to take a loss.
Yeah.
Because he always found the easier opponents back then.
Gotcha.
So he was more worried about patting his record than
actually
getting
good.
better.
Gotcha.
And then what were my other two I just had? Probably definitely a lot of it's mentality.
Yeah.
You can learn a million moves and get good at it, but if you don't have the mentality of going out there of like, this dude stepped across the line for me and he thinks he can beat me, like I'm taking that personally.
Sure.
Like you gotta have the mentality of like no one's gonna beat you.
So despite the fact that it is a heavily physical sport, what I'm getting from actually both of you is like, you could be in the best shape of your life and everything, but if you don't have the mentality to like, it's a mind game.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that you're just happening to use your mind with muscle.
Exactly.
So the biggest thing with it is it's more technical.
Yeah.
You have to be able to know what the kid is trying to do to you and how to defend it effectively more than it is, I'm just going to pin this guy with strength.
Yeah.
So you could be, because I I've done it many a times, go against guys that are bigger, stronger than me, and I would out-technique them.
Right.
Just because it's about how effectively you can pull off the technique and continue, okay, he's doing this, now I gotta do this. He's doing this, now I gotta do this. Okay, he left this open, so I can do this. It's strategy on a mat for 2 minutes straight with no break. You have to be able to see it and go with it quick.
Yeah. Sorry, my correlation, because I don't have experience with that, but I do understand like fencing and swordplay.
Yep.
Like it's a lot of like you're not just like swinging it. You're not just like I can hit him harder. It's well I need to be able to deflect his first blow and then get my sword back over there, and then but also I need to make sure that I have an opportunity to have the ability to still block the next blow. You know.
Yep.
And so it's active strategy. Mm-hmm. And so like it is, even though it looks like it's a big muscle game, it's the brain muscle that's doing most of the work for like winning the match.
Yep.
You're just backing it up a little bit with that muscle. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I would not have gone to that like myself. I would not have come to that conclusion myself. So I appreciate that. That's a very nice surprise to like hear that. Let's see. Sorry, we answered some of these questions. I always like when I go through questions like, oh nope, already did that one. Kind of already did that one. Kind of already did that one. I guess what was like your least favorite part of wrestling? Like in school, and then like one example from in school, and then one from coaching.
That's a good question.
When Catherine Sumner beat the Tully kid?
Oh, yeah,
and he destroyed the locker room?
Oh, yeah. This guy, he was winning against Catherine, not by much. He was beating her by 1, maybe 2.
Okay.
And then she pulled out a random cradle out of nowhere and she pinned him.
Okay.
And he got so mad that everyone just thought he was going to cool off in the hallway.
Uh-huh.
But he ended up doing like $3,000 worth of damage to the locker room. He destroyed, he ripped down all the ceiling tiles, ripped the door off of the locker.
Not knowing how to take a loss.
He stabbed hockey,
field
hockey poles into the top of the ceiling.
Yeah.
He did thousands of dollars of damage. The school was banned from coming back to our school. And
for any sport after that, we had to go to them.
School.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, because they were in our league, so we had to go to them for everything else after that.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Because he got beat by a girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he got suspended the rest of the season. I don't think he can continue.
I would imagine that with something like that. So that was a really cool.
Yeah, I don't remember wrestling after that.
Interesting story. But I was talking more of like the on a regular basis, like what are the things you're like? I do wrestling despite this, you know.
I know back when we were in school, you know, our punishment was stairs. So you find a flight of stairs, up, down, up to 1. And I used to get in trouble a lot back when I was younger, and I seen a lot of them, and that was I loved the sport, but I knew what I did. I knew the consequence. You know, I used to get yelled at by a teacher. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be 50 stairs later. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna yell at my coach later. And the same thing now. Like, I'll be sitting home. So I work nights. I'll be sitting home sleeping. Get a phone call from the school. And I'm like, oh God, which one of my kids is it now? Who did what? Next time I'm coming to practice. Are you a little annoyed because I'm like interrupting my sleep? Now I gotta deal with this. Gotta go meet with the principal as soon as I walk in. And gotta punish the team, and it's just just the little things like that.
Okay. Zack?
During wrestling, there's not really much you dislike doing.
Okay.
I think the biggest problem is sometimes you would get partnered with somebody who's not as serious.
Oh yeah.
As practicing.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I would almost always get paired with this one kid that was just there to goof off, there to have fun. So if
really
I'm
quick
trying,
clarification: are you talking about like wrestling them, or are you talking about like a team?
So in practice, it would be most of the time you would pair up with someone else, so you can try to learn how to do a move, defend a move, And then we would move into live wrestling, and most of the time it would be with that person. Then you switch to a new person.
Sparring.
Yeah.
pretty much.
Okay.
Basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think getting paired with somebody who's not taking it as seriously is probably the worst thing.
Like goofing off, because then you don't have a serious like sparring partner.
Yeah.
You don't have somebody to actually really practice against because maybe they're not like actually resisting, or they're not actually trying to get you in that hole or whatever. So you don't have like, it's like a punching bag that's like not like a foggy, like it's like, well, I almost am practicing my punches, but the bag keeps moving away.
Yep.
And especially if you get with someone that you know you can beat on, you know, and you know they're not going to give you a challenge, and they know they're going to beat on them, so they don't even try, and they just kind of lay there, and it's like...
And then you somehow just walk back out of a practice, basically, of like, well, I didn't actually practice.
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah.
You walk in there and you maybe lose like a half pound because you didn't get a sweat going because the guy didn't want to try. That was probably one of the most frustrating things.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, you're not paired with someone that's actually wanting to do anything, so the effort, like, it kind of nullifies the entire point of it.
Yep.
If you're just like, oh, well, I'm not going to try. It's like, well, then I can't really try, and then all of a sudden it's like, why did I even do this?
It's like, why were you one of us here right now?
Right, exactly. It's like, I could just wait for somebody else that actually wants to do something or whatever. Okay, let's flip it on the other side. What about your, like, favorite? I mean, I would assume winning's one of them, but, like, what would be, like, a more niche thing of, like, your favorite thing about participating in wrestling and then coaching? Like, highlights. Because, I mean, obviously winning's a highlight, but, like, is there anything that made it better, or, like, specific things that you're like, yeah, like...
I know one memory is when we used to do hide and go seek. That's when we won the league title. Remember those days? Hide and go seek throughout the whole school.
Oh.
Nothing was off limits.
Yeah, or tag or
any of that.
Yeah.
Yep. That was always fun.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that got stopped though after we interrupted a basketball game. Yeah. I wasn't a part of it. Me and Zack were not a part of it, but I guess two of the guys were running through the crowd and they're trying to get away from the other guy.
Oh no.
And they didn't realize that the game had already started. They thought they were still setting up the gym, so they went to cut through the gym. And yeah, just ran right through the middle of the basketball game. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'll get things shut down real fast.
Oh yeah, coach was real pissed about that one.
I would imagine. It's like you just played tag through a basketball game. Well, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best thing is just being like, you're part of a family within the school.
Mm.
You can be walking through the halls and you'll see, oh, there's Derek from the team. Oh, there's Eddie. Hey, what's up, Eddie? How's it going? And then you just go about your day. Like, you'd have somebody,
You're like, it's a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Okay.
And probably one of the favorite things about coaching is, my prime example, I had a kid last season. He lost 9 matches in a row.
Mm-hmm.
He was just always so close to figuring out how to get the win.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last second, you do something stupid or let go or think the time ran out, but it was a different match time.
Oh.
And he'd get beat. And it was just the so closeness of him finally getting his win. And he finally got it our last match of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a great moment to see, and just a great moment to, like, just be a part of, you know, and just those little things like that where it's like you finally watch someone do what they want to do and just see the pure joy in it.
That sense of accomplishment, and like
they know they earned it.
Did it. And yeah, like the ownership.
No one else helped me.
Right. Like, I did this. This is mine. I won.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that. So are there any like faux pas that people should know about with, like, when it comes to wrestling? Like, so a faux pas is like a you often hear about it in like a social faux pas of, oops, I did something that is, there's no technical rule against it, but it's definitely like looked down upon, or like, you know, it's like sneezing in someone's face, of like, it's not illegal, but everyone's gonna like look at you, go like, don't do that. Like, it's like unspoken rules, or like, you know, you do it and like people are gonna be giving you the eye or, giving you a little wide berth or something like that?
I think the only real thing is, like, if you're in a match and you have somebody that's a much lower skill level, and you can tell that within the first couple seconds.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Not to do anything outlandish, because then you're just being a jerk. You could just pin the guy simply, move on, go to the next match or whatever.
Don't show off. Gotcha.
But then you would have some people that's like, oh, this guy sucks. I'm going to put him in a legs cradle. Ha ha.
Which is the easiest move to get out of. It's literally you wrap your leg around his head and his leg, and then you hook your feet.
Legs.
Then you hook your feet, and then you just lay on your belly. And the way you get out of it is you just take one ankle and you push it over to the side. That's it. That's how you get out. But people don't know that when they're brand new, so they get pinned by it.
Yeah.
And
so it's literally just like, don't style on people just because you can.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's just to embarrass them, pretty much.
Yeah, because like that. Yeah, I've definitely played several different types of games where it's like people are just like showing off. I'm like, I'm new here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you not? Can you just play the game, please?
I did it once. I did a legs cradle on a kid. It was pretty funny. But he definitely was a little upset after.
Gotcha. So like, beat them at like around their skill level. Don't
exactly.
be a jerk about it.
You know you can easily beat this guy. Just simple takedown, half Nelson, move on.
Get it over with. Don't draw it out. Don't make a show of it.
Gotcha. Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, the only other thing is like illegal things that has happened.
Sure.
But you do that, then it's like, all right, we know this guy's just...
Right. It's straight up like, hey, there's a rule against that, you're done, stop.
Yeah.
But, okay, gotcha. Are there any assumptions that people make when you talk about wrestling? Are there, like, things that, like, people go like, oh, so you must, whatever, and you're like, oh, that's dumb, Because I know, like, I've talked to several people in several industries, and, like, there's always assumptions, like, people that do taxes, like, people are like, oh, you can do my taxes for free, right? Because I know he was like, no, stop. No.
Yeah.
No, this is my job. I get paid for it. Leave me alone. Like, or they're like, oh, since you do this, you must have, like, you're a podcaster, you must have a whole studio in your house, and, like, it's like, no, I don't have a whole studio in my house. Like, stuff like that. Are there assumptions that people make?
I think the biggest one are from people who have never wrestled or anything.
Yeah.
One of them is that all wrestlers are dumb.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge one. Everyone thinks that wrestlers are dumber.
Our team was the second or third smartest in the entire school.
Well, like you said, like it's strategy. It's thinking on your feet, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
It's active strategy. That makes sense. Like if you're having to think through every move as you go, fast paced, like studying shouldn't be that much hard, especially with the level of dedication that you're also putting in of like 4 hours every day plus just the everyday like throughout the day regulation. So okay, so dumb wrestler.
The other one is just everybody, because you try and get other people to wrestle throughout high school and that because you always need more people.
Sure.
The people would be like, no, that's gay. You're touching other men, that's gay.
Oh my god, that one's so annoying.
Gosh.
But it's not. You're in a physical combat almost. No, you're not swinging punches or anything like that. No. It's not gay to fight, but it's gay to wrestle.
Yeah.
But you're not being gay. You're
trying to beat the other person and win.
Yeah. So just because of how the combat is presented, I mean, you're also dealing with high school kids that are dumb,
immature, don't have a clue. Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, yeah. So dumb and gay.
Dumb and gay. Those are the two main ones.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. If you could tell the entire world like one thing about wrestling to like clear up something besides what we just talked about. Like a public service announcement of like, hey, wrestling in general would be a lot better if everyone knew this about wrestling, or you could just tell people so that like to quell misconception or something like that.
I think a lot more people would enjoy wrestling if they gave it a shot.
Okay.
100%.
It's not it's not this thing that's out of reach or this super like rough thing that you're gonna regret doing.
No, I think everyone should try at least a couple practices.
Okay.
Yep. For me, I'd say that if you play any other sport, wrestling will help you in that sport tremendously.
What?
It helps you football. The best wrestlers translate into amazing football players. Most of the best professional football players have wrestled in their careers. Yeah. It helps you tackle better. Your footwork's faster, better than most people. Baseball, it gives you better reaction times.
Yeah.
Lacrosse, it helps you get the footwork, the ability to hit people properly. Even in soccer, it helps you, instead of your hand-eye, your foot-eye coordination. It helps all across the board in any sport you do.
Well, I mean, I guess it is one of the more full-body sports that you can get into. But I mean, it makes sense. Like, I mean, your focus. I know wrestling has a lot to do with like center of gravity and like where your weight, using your weight to your advantage and stuff like that, and like that's something that translates to most things. It's like I don't know a sport that I can think of off the top of my head that being able to control your center of gravity is not going to help you at all.
Yep.
You know, I can't think of any. I'm sure there's somewhere there's
somewhere crazier.
But like off the top of my head, I can't think of a sport that's like, oh yeah, you know, if you have a better center of gravity and control of that, you know, it's gonna help you some way. You know. Okay. Are there any? What?
Well, I have a comment.
Okay.
I know that we had girls in the wrestling team growing up. I already mentioned Catherine. But I know a lot of females have that worry of it's a male-dominated sport. It's not safe for girls. Is that true?
No, actually now the female wrestling has grown so much that they have their own whole state tournament. They have their own whole national tournament now.
Nice.
They have their own... You can still wrestle the boys if you want. But if you want to just wrestle strictly girls, there are strictly girl teams out there now. So it's a real change in the last at least 10 years since we've been in.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because when we were growing up, I remember other girls commenting on Catherine and her sister Mary and, oh, that's weird. Why would the girls want to roll around on mats with boys and make all these comments? And like, isn't it really dangerous? And then Mary one time broke her collarbone and everybody was like, oh, see, it's so dangerous for her.
But which collarbone is the most common injury for wrestlers?
Yeah.
Right. It is. The collarbone is meant to break. It's designed to break. And so I just remember that was a lot of other people's issues. And I was like, yeah, but they're still kicking boys' booties all the time.
Got some rage quit.
Exactly.
Rage quit.
Yeah, Catherine got a
real life rage quit.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I just wanted to make sure that people listening know that no, it's girls can do it too and can kick butt.
Well, that's actually what's going to be one of my next things. Like, what are some questions that you wish more people asked about like wrestling instead of just assuming like
about cutting weight too? So now high school they have a weight loss plan now, so you can't do what we used to do and drop 10 pounds in a day. Now they map out your whole season. So say you want to say for Zack, he weighs in at 60 for certs, 160. He wants to wrestle 145. They do a whole weight loss plan for him. And he has to follow that to a T. If he loses weight too fast, then he resets his whole clock and he has to go back to zero. So he has to do the whole weight loss thing all over again every single week. So they really try to make it so people don't cut the weight as fast as they used to.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, and I just it slipped my mind with the rest of the conversation. Because I was like extreme weight loss can be unhealthy, can't it?
Oh yeah, it leads to anorexia and all that kind of stuff. But it's like they're trying to prevent that now with this new weight loss program.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very successful so far. I think it's like 3 seasons now.
Yeah. Okay. So like they're making improvements to like how unhealthy or healthy it is to lose that weight or gain that weight is needed. and they're kind of regulating that a little bit more. Any other questions like you wish people would ask instead of assuming? Or no,
I got nothing.
It's not really a question.
Okay,
it kind of is. Sometimes you be like, "Oh, you should wrestle in that." People are like, "WWE?
No,
Wrestle?"
Oh god, yeah.
It is not WWE. It's nothing like that.
No.
When I was talking about this,
Oh yeah, I said it.
I was at work and it was a long day, and I think Nick said something about like you said like the season starting soon or something like that, or I'm like, no, not WWE, not WWE. This is your guys with actual wrestling. Oh gosh. By the way, I just want to ask actual wrestlers, is like TV wrestling real wrestling?
No.
Okay.
No, that's not.
I know that. I just wanted to hear my audience hear it from people that actually wrestle about like that's not how that works. I've seen clips. I've seen lots of clips here and there, and like I can appreciate the art.
Yeah.
It's great acting. Leads to some really great like movie actors and stuff like that, and they do a phenomenal job putting on an amazing show. But it is a show.
Yeah. I think it would help wrestling a lot more if they put college wrestling on TV more accessibly. Because it is rather hard to find. Most kids who do look it up and watch it have to go to YouTube and look up YouTube clips in that.
Right.
I think only about 4 times have I seen it on live television.
Really?
Yeah.
2 of those 4 times were during the Olympics, though.
Yeah.
Which is kind of...
Yeah.
It's like, it's the Olympics. Good job. You showed the Olympics on TV.
Yeah, it should
versus actually just wrestling specifically.
It should be more accessible, like all other sports, how they're on ESPN Plus, ESPN,
right,
Paramount Plus, all those channels. They should do that for college wrestling, just like they do college football, college track and field, college soccer. They should all be the same because it would help the growth of the sport,
right,
and help people understand
versus
yeah,
these like very nicely choreographed, like bounce off of the rings and landing on people and Legos and dice on the wrestling mat. Oh gosh, I watch all the weirdest clips of wrestling. I can't say that. I don't know if that's standard. Like I've seen some weird things of like, someone just threw like D4 dice on the mat and like body slammed him into it. It's like, yes, this is wrestling. Like, I don't know who watches. Like, I've done wrestling since kindergarten, and you know what the best move is? My Lego set. It's like, I'm bringing that to the wrestling mat tonight. They won't see it coming.
I think that's one of the no rules.
It's like no Lego sets at the wrestling mat.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to get that out there and like. Answered by actual wrestlers, I can be like, no, because like if I say it's like, well, that's your opinion, but someone would be like, I've wrestled since I was 4. That's not wrestling.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, I want to get that out there. So for someone just starting, like they're listening to this podcast, they're like, you know what? Maybe it is more accessible than I thought. Maybe it is something I'm going to enjoy. Like, what would be your advice to them starting off, like? From right here, like listening right now.
Ask a million questions. Honestly.
I like that. Anybody advocating for asking questions, that's a win for me. Okay.
Easiest thing is just listen to the other people who have done it for longer. Again, you gotta ask and talk to them to get their advice on things. Because from wrestler to wrestler, each wrestler does certain things differently.
Right.
It can be the same move, but the way they get there can be differently.
Right.
That way could work for you compared to the way coach is showing.
Kind of personalize it to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, about it.
All right. If you were able to go back in time to a moment of your choosing in your life and from this point give yourself advice, like when would you go back to and what advice would you give? in reference to wrestling specifically, not just whole life?
Freshman year, I'd go
Freshman?
back, first practice, tell myself not to be a knucklehead, and actually pay attention, and definitely do a lot more summer wrestling in my first couple seasons.
Okay.
For me, I would go back to beginning of 7th grade there, and I would just be like, go for varsity.
Go for
Put the work in. Go for the varsity team now.
Okay.
Get your 2 crappy seasons out of the way before you're even a freshman.
I didn't think about that.
Then, once you're a freshman, you should have the fundamentals and everything of varsity down packed that you will be starting to push into the after leagues.
Classes and sectionals and all that.
After sectionals. Start pushing more into sectionals.
Okay.
Because my time, I only ever made it to sectionals once.
What are sectionals?
So it goes...
It goes leagues and classes, and you have to place top 4 in classes to go on sectionals. Then now it's top 3 in sectionals.
So are these like
So
classes of
your
wrestling
school-
and like levels or what?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the school you're in will have a rating of B, C, A, D, and that's just how many kids are in the school able to do the program.
Okay.
Then it goes from there into a group of schools all at the same rating will compete against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the season, you compile everybody's records and they get put into the class tournament.
Okay.
Once you're in classes, it's whoever gets top 3 of classes,
No, top 4.
top 4, gets top 4 in classes, goes to sectionals. Sectionals is now every school, no matter if it's A, B, C, or D.
No, they divided it now. It's
They did?
yeah, A is Division 1, B, C, and D is Division 2. So it's the large schools, small schools.
Okay.
Okay. But then you get put into your section. So the section of school, it's mapped out on a map of how many schools are in it. You get all the best kids from these classes coming together in the sectional tournament.
Gotcha.
And then each section, I think there's 9 sections in New York.
I think 11.
It might be
10,
11.
10, 11.
10 or 11. Each one of those has the top 3 in sectionals goes to the state tournament.
Gotcha.
And they wrestle off for the state title.
And then the winner of that goes to nationals.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you would have wanted to push yourself in varsity to be able to get to the sectionals earlier?
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Get there more frequently, try and push higher into sectionals to try and get
Gotcha.
to that state tournament.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So one of my favorite questions that I ask is, I phrase it as a magic snap. Okay. If you could have the ideal setup for coaching right now, like in regards to wrestling, as it applies to you, if you could snap your fingers, no strings attached, just perfect magic setup, like what would that look like for you?
For coaching?
Yeah, like or I mean maybe
I'd say-
maybe if it's going professional for yourself, I don't know, but like I would assume it'd be more like coaching, like what that setup would look like, maybe getting paid, whatever that like your fantasy as far as like being able to be participating in wrestling right now.
I would honestly want a varsity team that's got the backing of the school.
Okay.
Not one that you have to go to the school and be like, hey, we need this money, we need this, we need that. I want a school that's fully behind you being like, we're here for the kids, to help better the kids.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll give you what you need, we'll give you mats, we'll get you bus fares, tournaments, all that stuff.
Right.
But we are here for the kids as well as you.
Right.
I would want 20 to 30 kids, probably 2 assistant coaches to help out.
Okay.
And I would want to be the wrestlers I have to have the mentality of we want to get better.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So that eventually you can pull out that championship winning team and you can make it there. And
Gotcha.
then go from there. Okay, now we do it again next season.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do it again next season. To end up making a wrestling dynasty.
Gotcha. I like that.
Because that way you're also helping the most amount of kids throughout your career get better and fundamentally have a better chance in life.
It's a higher impact. It's a well-resourced, higher impact situation.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm 100% the same.
It's just like,
100%. Like there's nothing that he just said that I didn't agree with.
Gotcha. So when are you guys opening up your wrestling gym?
One day.
As soon as I get funding.
Gotcha. Okay,
Funding.
That's right. I forgot about the funding part. Yeah, my bad. So I try and come up with as best of a list of questions and dive as deep as I can into different topics and stuff like that. Is there any question that you wish I had asked or that you want to answer that I didn't ask?
Yeah, everything pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fairly absorbent of them all.
Okay. Is there anything that we didn't talk enough about in your opinion that you want to go back and revisit right now? That you want to kind of talk more about that you feel like I might have brushed over too quickly or didn't circle back to or something?
No, I think you did really, really good.
Yeah, I think the only thing really is that if you are someone who's trying to learn wrestling and go up through it, your school may not have a wrestling program. But you can talk to your athletic director, and we had a couple situations of it where you can go to another school to join their wrestling team.
Oh, okay.
You can go and be a part of this team.
Yeah.
And then there is also, throughout the summer, throughout the year, club wrestling.
Okay.
Which is what I was doing for the past 2 years, is a program that's with the school but not affiliated with the school. We just use their gym.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are very good to start with because they're not as hard or intensive practices. They're rather light, and at the end, most of the time you have a game that just to let the kids round out the rest of their energy. And then if you want to do a tournament, you can. You don't have to with club wrestling.
Gotcha.
Whereas if you're in high school, modified in that, the team goes, you go.
Gotcha.
But club wrestling, it's at your leisure, at your pace.
It's a little looser.
Yeah.
A little bit more casual setting to get into it versus having to be like, this is my life.
Yep.
It's let me get a taste of it. Let me see if this is for me, Gotcha. Okay. So I want to thank you so much for coming on my podcast and sharing your love of wrestling with me. Do either of you have anything you want to plug social media wise or anything?
No.
Just want to double check. Any final words of wisdom or
just enjoy it?
Enjoy.
Yeah.
All right.
Only thing is, if you want to wrestle, go for it.
Yeah.
Nothing's stopping you but you.
All right. Love that. And thank you so much for being on my program.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah. And for all of you listening out there, I am really wanting to push the Curious Joel Patreon. So I have pre-interview questions that I ask every single guest that's come on for quite some time now. All of those get posted directly to my Patreon. You also get to hear oftentimes unedited episodes before I start really editing them down and getting cleaned up. You also get to hear the episode before anybody else does. So if you subscribe to Patreon, you're helping support this channel, helping me invest in this podcast, helping me help you learn. So please go check that out. I'm trying to get back into the sense moving from California. But I do have a few episodes of Car Talk, which is just me with a mic and whoever's in the car with me just talking. No particular subject in mind, nothing specific, just chatting, and then I just post that to Patreon. So you get some random conversations that you don't hear on the regular channel. So please go support me there if you have the means to do so. I'd appreciate that. You also can find me at CuriousJoelCast on Instagram. And if you really want to email me, you can find me at CuriousJoelCast@gmail.com. I think that is everything because I have too many things. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, stay curious.